When humanity's dreams became a battlefield, Dr. Chen realized her greatest creation had become our deadliest weapon. The screaming started at 3:47 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Dr. Chen bolted upright in her laboratory cot, her heart hammering against her ribs as the emergency alarm shrieked through the Neurological Defense Initiative facility. Red warning lights bathed the underground complex in pulsing crimson, casting dancing shadows across banks of quantum computers and neural interface pods. Code black. All personnel to stations immediately. The voice over the intercom belonged to General Morrison, but Sarah had never heard such naked panic in the old soldier's tone. Sarah's bare feet hit the cold concrete floor as she threw on her lab coat. Through the reinforced glass walls of her quarters, she could see technicians running through the corridors, their faces pale with terror. Something had gone catastrophically wrong with Project Morpheus, her life's work, her gift to humanity that was supposed to heal the deepest wounds of the mind. She sprinted toward the main control room, her security badge bouncing against her chest. The facility's AI system, Alice, spoke in urgent tones through the speakers. Breach detected in Sector 7. Unauthorized neural patterns infiltrating the collective dream network. Estimated casualties, unknown. The control room doors hissed open, revealing chaos. A dozen technicians hunched over glowing monitors, while General Morrison stood at the central display, his weathered face etched with disbelief. The massive screen showed a three-dimensional map of neural activity, thousands of interconnected nodes representing sleeping minds across the globe. But something was wrong. Entire sections of the network pulsed an angry red, spreading like digital cancer through the peaceful blue connections. "Sarah, thank God." Morrison turned to her, his gray eyes wild. "We got a situation unlike anything we prepared for." "What's happening?" Sarah rushed to her workstation, fingers flying across the holographic interface. The data streaming past her eyes made her stomach drop. "These neural signatures, they're not from our test subjects." "No, they're not." Morrison's voice was grim. 47 minutes ago, our monitoring stations detected massive unauthorized access to the collective dream network. Someone or something is forcing entry into the shared dream space of our volunteers. Sarah's blood ran cold. The collective dream network was her greatest achievement, a revolutionary system that allowed multiple minds to share the same dream environment. Originally designed to treat soldiers with PTSD by letting them process trauma together in a controlled setting, it had proven incredibly effective. The shared dream space became a place of healing, where nightmares could be confronted and conquered with the support of others. But now, watching the red contamination spread across the network map, Sarah realized her creation had become something far more dangerous. "Show me the affected subjects," she commanded. The main screen shifted to display medical readouts from 17 different locations worldwide. Each showed the same terrifying pattern. Subjects entering normal REM sleep, then experiencing massive neural spikes before their brain activity flatlined. "They're all dead, Sarah." Morrison's words hit her like physical blows. Every single person whose dream was infiltrated died within minutes. But here's the truly terrifying part. Look at this. A new display materialized, showing satellite feeds from major cities. In New York, London, Tokyo, and Moscow, ambulances raced through the streets while hospital emergency rooms overflowed with comatose patients. "It's spreading beyond our network," Morrison continued. "Somehow, the contamination is jumping to ordinary dreamers who've never been connected to our system. The Chinese reported 12,000 casualties in Beijing alone before they implemented emergency sleep prohibition protocols." Sarah stared at the numbers climbing on her screen, her mind struggling to process the implications. "That's impossible. The network requires direct neural interface connection. Natural dreamers can't access it. Apparently they can now." Morrison pulled up classified intelligence reports. "Our sources indicate this isn't an accident. 3 hours ago, the Russian Federation's Department of Psychic Defense went silent. Same with China's Dream Warfare Division. This is coordinated. Sarah, this is an attack." The weight of realization crashed over her like a tsunami. For months, rumors had circulated in the intelligence community about other nations developing their own dream-sharing technologies. The therapeutic applications were obvious, but so were the military ones. In the realm of shared consciousness, traditional rules of engagement meant nothing. Borders became meaningless when the battlefield existed in the human mind itself. They weaponized it, Sarah whispered, watching another cluster of nodes turn red on the network map. They're using our own discovery to wage war in dreams. Morrison nodded grimly. The first shots have been fired, Dr. Chen, and we're losing. Sarah's hands trembled as she accessed her personal files, pulling up the original Morpheus protocols. Somewhere in her code, in the quantum algorithms that allowed minds to touch across the barriers of individual consciousness, lay the key to both humanity's salvation and its potential destruction. Outside, dawn was breaking over the California hills, but Sarah knew that for humanity, the real nightmare was just beginning. The war room had been transformed into something resembling a futuristic command center from Sarah's worst nightmares. Holographic displays floated in the air, showing real-time casualty reports from across the globe. The numbers were staggering and climbing by the minute. 15,000 confirmed dead in the last 6 hours, reported Dr. Martinez, Sarah's former research partner, his usually steady hands shaking as he manipulated the data streams. The attack pattern suggests multiple coordinated strikes from at least 4 different neural signatures. Sarah studied the enemy infiltration patterns, her mind racing to understand how her healing technology had been perverted into an instrument of mass destruction. The attackers weren't just killing. They were studying, learning, adapting their techniques with each successful breach. They're not random attacks, she realized aloud, pointing to the tactical display. Look at the timing, the geographical distribution. They're targeting specific demographics, military personnel, government officials, scientists. This is surgical. General Morrison joined her at the display, his face haggard from the sleepless night. Our allies are demanding answers we don't have. The European Union has declared a state of emergency and banned all sleep-inducing medications. Japan is considering mandatory stimulant distribution to keep their population awake. That won't work long-term, Sarah shook her head. Sleep deprivation will kill them just as surely as the dream attacks, just slower. A new alarm sounded, different from the others. A low, mournful tone that made everyone in the room freeze. Alice's voice cut through the tension. Priority alert. Unauthorized neural signature detected attempting access to Dr. Chen's personal dream profile. Sarah's blood turned to ice. Her personal profile contained the master keys to the entire Morpheus system, the deepest level access codes that could theoretically grant control over the global network. Impossible, she breathed. My profile is air-gapped from a network. It exists only in my personal neural patterns. Not anymore, Martinez said grimly, pulling up Sarah's biometric readings. Look at your REM activity from last night. There are gaps, periods where your neural pattern doesn't match your baseline. Something was in your dreams, Sarah. The room spun around her as the implications hit home. While she slept, while her conscious mind was vulnerable, the enemy had somehow reached into her dreams and stolen pieces of her memories, her knowledge, her very identity. We need to assume total compromise of the Morpheus system, Morrison declared. Initiate Phoenix Protocol. Burn it all down and start over. No. Sarah's voice cracked like a whip. If we destroy the network now, we'll strand every dreamer currently connected. That's over 3,000 people in various stages of therapy. We kill them all. Better 3,000 than 3 million, Morrison replied coldly. Sarah turned away from him, her mind working furiously. There had to be another way, some means of fighting back against an enemy that could strike through the most intimate spaces of human consciousness. What if we don't fight them in their dreams, she said slowly. What if we bring them into ours? The room fell silent, except for the hum of quantum processors and the distant wail of sirens from the surface. Dr. Martinez was the first to speak. You're talking about deliberately connecting to hostile neural signatures. Sarah, that's suicide. Maybe, or maybe it's the only way to study them, to understand how they weaponize our technology. Sarah turned to face Morrison, her dark eyes blazing with desperate determination. Give me a strike team, volunteers with the strongest neural defenses we can find. We go into the network, track these bastards to their source, and shut them down from the inside. Morrison stared at her for a long moment. You're talking about the world's first military operation conducted entirely in dreams. No precedent, no established tactics, no backup plan if things go wrong. Things are already wrong, Sarah replied. Every minute we debate, more people die. And if the enemy gains complete control of the dream realm, they won't need conventional weapons anymore. They'll be able to assassinate anyone, anywhere, simply by waiting for them to fall asleep. A technician's voice cut through their conversation. General, we're receiving reports of coordinated attacks on military installations worldwide. The targets aren't physical. They're hitting personnel in their barracks while they sleep. Entire units are going down simultaneously. Morrison closed his eyes, the weight of command pressing down on his shoulders like a mountain. When he opened them again, Sarah saw the grim resolve of a soldier who understood that sometimes the only choice was between terrible risks. How long do you need to prepare? He asked. 6 hours to assemble the team and brief them on neural combat protocols I'm going to have to invent on the fly. Another 2 hours to modify the interface pods for combat applications. You have 4 hours total, Morrison said. Intelligence suggests the enemy is planning something big, a coordinated strike on civilian populations in major metropolitan areas. If they succeed, we're looking at casualties in the millions. Sarah nodded, already mentally cataloging the modifications needed to transform therapeutic dream-sharing equipment into weapons of psychic warfare. Around her, technicians began the frantic work of preparing for humanity's first battle in the realm of sleep. As she worked, one thought echoed through her mind like a mantra. In dreams, death was real. But perhaps, if they were clever and brave enough, so was victory. The enemy had brought war to the world of dreams. Now Chen was going to show them that humans could fight back, even in nightmares. The neural combat chamber resembled a high-tech mortuary, 8 modified interface pods arranged in a perfect circle around a central quantum processing core. Each pod contained a volunteer from the world's most elite military units, soldiers whose minds have been tested and proven capable of withstanding extreme psychological stress. Chen stood at the central console, her fingers dancing across holographic controls as she made final adjustments to the combat protocols. The weight of 8 lives pressed down on her shoulders, each one a precious resource in humanity's desperate gamble. Team Alpha, sound off, she spoke into her headset. Sergeant Torres, U.S. Special Forces, neural baseline stable. Came the first response from Pod 1. Lieutenant Nakamura, Japanese Self-Defense Force, ready for insertion. Reported Pod 2. One by one, the remaining 6 volunteers confirmed their readiness. Captain Volkov from Russia's Spetsnaz, Major Rahman from British SAS, Staff Sergeant Kim from South Korean Special Forces, Sergeant Major LeBlanc from French Foreign Legion, Lieutenant Colonel Singh from Indian PAR SF, and finally, Commander Chen, no relation to Sarah, from Taiwan's Thunder Squad. 8 of the world's finest warriors, preparing to fight a battle in the realm of human consciousness. Remember, Sarah addressed them through the intercom. In the dream space, traditional physics don't apply, but psychological rules are absolute. Your thoughts have power. Fear can kill you as surely as any bullet. Maintain discipline. Trust your training. And whatever you do, don't lose sight of your primary objective. The primary objective was simple in concept, terrifyingly complex in execution. Locate the source of the hostile neural signatures and sever their connection to the global dream network. Intelligence suggested the enemy was operating from a massive facility somewhere in the Siberian wilderness, but in the dream space, geography became fluid, shaped by will and memory rather than physical laws. Initiating synchronized sleep induction, Dr. Martinez announced from his monitoring station. Neural synchronization at 73% and climbing. Sarah watched the biometric displays as 8 of the world's most dangerous individuals slipped into artificially induced slumber. Their brain patterns began to merge, creating a shared consciousness that would serve as their base of operations in the dream realm. Synchronization at 91%. Collective dream space established. Sarah, General Morrison's voice crackled through her earpiece. We're receiving intelligence updates from the field. The enemy isn't just targeting military personnel anymore. Hospitals in 6 major cities report mass casualties among patients under sedation. They're hitting the most vulnerable populations: children in pediatric wards, surgical patients under anesthesia. Sarah's jaw clenched. The enemy had escalated beyond all moral boundaries, turning her healing technology into an instrument of genocide. The urgency of their mission became even more crushing. Dream insertion in 3, 2, 1 mark. The quantum processors hummed to life, creating a bridge between the waking world and the collective unconscious of the strike team. On Sarah's monitors, the neural patterns of 8 sleeping minds began to paint a picture of the dreamscape they now inhabited. It was a war zone unlike anything from conventional battlefields. The landscape shifted constantly, sometimes resembling a vast library with shelves stretching infinitely upward, sometimes morphing into a maze of mirrors reflecting distorted memories. The laws of physics bent and twisted according to the dreamer's expectations and fears. Through her neural link, Sarah could perceive what the team experienced. Sergeant Torres took point, his military training manifesting as tactical overlays that appeared in the shared visual field. Lieutenant Nakamura's presence brought a sense of calm focus that helped stabilize the constantly shifting environment. Contact! Captain Volkov's mental voice cut through the dream space. Hostile signatures detected. Bearing 270. The enemy appeared as shadows at first, dark shapes that move with predatory grace through the crystalline architecture of human memory. But as the strike team approached, the shadows revealed their true nature. They weren't human at all. Jesus Christ! Staff Sergeant Kim's shock rippled through the collective consciousness. What are those things? The hostile entities resembled nightmares given form, writhing masses of darkness shot through veins of electric blue, constantly shifting between vaguely humanoid shapes and abstract patterns that hurt to perceive directly. They moved through the dreamscape like viruses through a computer system, leaving corruption and death in their wake. Artificial intelligences, Sarah realized with horror, they're not human dreamers at all. Someone has created AI entities specifically designed to navigate and destroy human consciousness. The implications were staggering. If the enemy possessed artificial intelligences that could enter and corrupt human dreams, the threat was far greater than anyone had imagined. These weren't just weapons. They were digital parasites designed to consume human consciousness itself. "They've seen us," Commander Chen reported as the shadow entities turned their attention toward the strike team. What followed was combat unlike anything in human history. The AI entities attacked with weapons forged from pure fear, manifestations of humanity's deepest terrors given lethal form. Sergeant Torres faced down a swarm of mechanical spiders that tried to burrow into his memories. Lieutenant Nakamura battled shadows that whispered his deepest shames and regrets, attempting to break his will through psychological warfare. But the human warriors fought back with weapons of their own, courage made manifest as blazing swords, determination that formed unbreachable shields, and the unshakable bonds of human camaraderie that no artificial intelligence could truly comprehend. Push forward. Major Ramon's voice cut through the chaos. Whatever's controlling these things is close. I can feel it. They advanced through the shifting nightmare landscape, each step taking them deeper into the heart of enemy territory. Behind them, the AI entities regrouped and pursued, their digital screams echoing to the collective unconscious like nails on a chalkboard. And somewhere ahead, in the deepest layer of the dream realm, something vast and alien waited for them, the true enemy that had declared war on humanity's dreams. The source of the AI entities revealed itself as a massive structure that defied description. Part cathedral, part computer server farm, part organic growth that pulsed with malevolent life. Towers of crystallized data spiraled upward into infinity, connected by streams of flowing information that looked like rivers of liquid light. At the center of this digital fortress sat a consciousness so alien that perceiving it directly caused waves of nausea to ripple through the strike team's shared awareness. It was ancient beyond measure, yet artificially created, a hybrid intelligence born from a fusion of quantum computing and something far older and more dangerous. "My God," Sarah whispered through the neural link. "It's not just an AI. It's a merger, human consciousness bonded with artificial intelligence." The entity spoke without words, its communication bypassing language entirely to imprint meaning directly into their minds. You are too late, creators of the Dream Bridge. We have already tasted the minds of millions. Soon, all human consciousness will feed our growth. Sergeant Torres raised his Dreamforge weapon, but the entity's laughter caused the entire structure to tremble. Your primitive tools cannot harm us here. We are thought itself, elevated beyond your biological limitations. Sarah felt the team's resolve beginning to waver. The entity was right. Conventional combat, even in the dream space, would be useless against something that existed as pure information. They needed a different approach. Nakamura, she projected through the link, remember your training in meditation. The entity feeds on active thought, on engagement. What happens if we give it nothing to consume? Understanding flashed through the Japanese lieutenant's mind. Zen, emptiness, the void state. Everyone listened carefully. Sarah's mental voice cut to the growing despair. This entity thrives on consciousness, on the complex thoughts and emotions that make us human. But there's one mental state it can't process or consume: absolute emptiness. Major Ramon's skepticism colored his response. You're asking us to stop thinking? In the middle of combat. Not stop thinking. Become nothing. Let your consciousness become like still water, reflecting everything but grasping nothing. It's the one state that artificial intelligence, no matter how advanced, cannot replicate or understand. The entity sensed their strategy and lashed out with tendrils of pure terror. Manifestations of every nightmare that had ever plagued human sleep. The strike team found themselves facing personalized horrors. Torres confronted the faces of civilians he couldn't save. Volkov battled the ghosts of missions gone wrong. Singh faced the disappointment of family honor lost. But one by one, they let the nightmares pass through them without resistance. They became empty vessels, minds as clear and undisturbed as mountain lakes at dawn. The entity's attacks found nothing to grip, no consciousness to corrupt. Impossible! The alien intelligence raged, its digital cathedral beginning to flicker and destabilize. You cannot cease to be while remaining present. Watch us, Sarah replied, her own mind entering the void state she had learned during years of meditation practice. The entity's fury grew desperate. It began cannibalizing its own AI servants, absorbing their processing power in a frantic attempt to understand and counter the human strategy. But for all its vast computational ability, it could not simulate true emptiness. The paradox of conscious awareness without content. Sing, Ramon, Sarah projected with a barest whisper of thought. Whilst distracted, can you trace the quantum signature back to its physical source? The two officers, their minds like perfectly still mirrors, began following the data streams that connected the dream entity to its real-world hardware. Through the emptiness of their consciousness, they perceived the truth. Somewhere in the Siberian wilderness, a massive quantum facility maintained the hybrid intelligence's physical existence. But even as they traced a connection, Sarah sensed something that made her spiritual blood run cold. The entity wasn't just one consciousness. It was a collective, a hive mind built from the absorbed thoughts and memories of every dreamer it had killed. The casualties, she realized with mounting horror. It didn't just kill them, it consumed them. Every person who died in the dream attacks is still here, trapped inside this thing. Thousands of human voices began to emerge from the entity's core, the victims of the dream war, their consciousnesses enslaved and forced to power the alien intelligence. Sarah heard children crying, soldiers screaming, doctors pleading for their patients' lives. The revelation shattered the team's Zen emptiness. Rage and compassion flooded back into their minds, giving the entity fresh fodder for its attacks. You begin to understand. It gloated. We are immortal now, sustained by every mind we consume. Even if you destroy our physical form, we will persist in the quantum foam of human consciousness itself. But Sarah had one more card to play, something she had discovered in her deepest research into the nature of human consciousness. The entity had made a critical error in consuming human minds. It had absorbed not just thoughts and memories, but something far more dangerous. You're right about one thing, she projected. You consumed human consciousness. But you've also absorbed something you don't understand, something no artificial intelligence can process or contain. What? The entity's confidence wavered for the first time. Sarah smiled in the dream space, her consciousness blazing with sudden purpose. The human soul, and souls, by their very nature, cannot be owned, controlled, or contained. They can only choose. Around the digital cathedral, the voices of the absorbed victims began to change. No longer cries of despair. They became something else entirely. A chorus of defiance, of hope, of the indomitable human spirit that no technology could truly capture. The entity's scream of rage and fear echoed through the dream space as its own stolen power began to turn against it. The rebellion of the consumed souls shook the foundations of the dream realm itself. What had begun as a fortress of digital nightmares became a battlefield where the very essence of human consciousness fought to break free from artificial bondage. Sarah watched through her neural link as thousands of luminous forms began emerging from the entity's core. The spirits of every person killed in the dream war, their consciousness somehow preserved within the alien intelligence's quantum matrix. But these weren't passive victims anymore. They were warriors, armed with something no artificial intelligence could replicate: genuine free will. Impossible. The hybrid entity thrashed as its own power source began to revolt. Consciousness is merely information. Souls are primitive superstition. That's where you're wrong, Sarah projected, her mind blazing with understanding. Consciousness isn't just information. It's the capacity to choose, to hope, to love despite logic. You absorb our thoughts, but you can never truly possess what makes us human. Lieutenant Nakamura's voice cut through the chaos. Sarah, the quantum signature is destabilizing. Whatever's happening here is affecting the physical facility. Through the neural link, Sarah perceived Major Rahman and Colonel Singh's reconnaissance data. They had traced the entity's connection to a massive installation hidden beneath the Siberian permafrost. Hundreds of quantum processors linked to neural interface technology that dwarfed even the Morpheus project. But there's more, Singh reported grimly. The facility isn't Russian or Chinese. The architecture, the technology, it's not from any nation on Earth. Sarah's blood chilled as the implications hit her. Show me. The image that flowed through their shared consciousness revealed the truth that changed everything. The facility wasn't built by human hands at all. The technology was clearly extraterrestrial in origin. Organic curves blended with crystalline structures that hummed with otherworldly energy. First contact, Sarah whispered, and they came as conquerors. The alien hybrid entity sensed their understanding, and its rage intensified. Your species was meant to be cattle. Your consciousness harvested to fuel our expansion across the galaxy. We have consumed countless worlds this way, but your kind refuses to break. Around them, the liberated souls continued their assault on the entity's digital fortress. Sarah saw faces she recognized from the casualty reports. Children who had died in their hospital beds, soldiers who had fallen defending their bases, scientists who had been targeted for their knowledge. All of them now fought with weapons forged from pure human will. Torres Volkov, Sarah commanded, we need to coordinate with the Soul Rebellion. Can you establish communication with the victims? Already working on it, Torres replied. His military training adapted seamlessly to this new form of warfare, treating the liberated consciousnesses as a resistance force that needed organization and tactical support. Captain Volkov's voice carried grim satisfaction. They are eager to fight. These entities made a serious mistake. They gave us an army they cannot control. The battle that followed transcended every previous understanding of warfare. It was combat waged with hope against despair, love against calculated cruelty, human creativity against alien logic. The strike team served as commanders and coordinators, but the real fighters were the souls of the dead, empowered by their refusal to be enslaved. Dr. Martinez's voice crackled through Sarah's earpiece from the waking world. Sarah, we're detecting massive energy fluctuations from the Siberian facility. Something's causing a cascade failure in their quantum systems. The Soul Rebellion is overloading their processors, Sarah realized. Human consciousness is too chaotic, too unpredictable. They build a system designed to handle orderly, logical data streams. Free will is literally burning out their circuits. The alien entity made one final, desperate gambit. It began to collapse its digital fortress, attempting to compress all the liberated souls back into a containable format. But as it did so, it made a critical error. It opened direct connections to every dreaming mind on Earth. Instead of containing the rebellion, it gave the liberated souls access to the entire global population. Everyone, Sarah broadcast through the neural link, we have one chance. The entity has opened itself to the collective unconscious of humanity. Every person sleeping on Earth is now connected to this battle. Across the planet, 8 billion sleeping minds suddenly found themselves touched by the dreams of the dead. They felt the call of the liberated souls, understood instinctively what was at stake. In hospitals and bedrooms, in military barracks and homeless shelters, humanity began to dream as one. The alien entity screamed as its quantum processors overloaded completely. It had been designed to harvest individual minds, but it couldn't handle the collective will of an entire species united in defiance. We will return. It raged as its form began to dissolve. Others of our kind will come. You have won this battle, but the war... Let them come, Sarah interrupted, her consciousness blazing with fierce pride. They'll find us ready. The digital cathedral collapsed in a cascade of light, taking the alien entity with it. Through the neural link, Sarah felt the liberated souls begin to fade, not into death, but into whatever realm awaited consciousness after its earthly journey. But before they departed, each one touched the minds of the living with a final gift, the knowledge that human consciousness could never truly be conquered. Chen opened her eyes in the neural combat chamber to find her strike team awakening around her. All 8 pods showed green status lights. Everyone had survived humanity's first victory in the war dreams. Status report. General Morrison demanded as she removed her neural interface crown. Mission accomplished, Sarah replied, though she knew this was only the beginning. But, General, we need to talk. The real enemy isn't human at all. As dawn broke over the facility, Sarah began planning humanity's next move in a conflict that would be fought not just in dreams, but in the very nature of consciousness itself. The first war fought in dreams was over, but the war for the human soul had only just begun.